Okay, still here in the second turn of Empire of the Sun. The U.S. played Imperial Headquarters Debate, which starts an inter-service rivalry between the Army and the Navy. That means that Japanese naval units can't get involved in a land offensive, and vice versa, essentially. Very, very bad event for the Japanese in this case. It meant they can no longer do what they were doing, bringing all their ships in to help bombard, etc. They can use their airplanes, though, and I did that. Used this card as an operations card. It had a bonus 3 for surprise, which took effect. I rolled a 4. And the Japanese moved forward into Manila, and up here they've taken the main island here. And other than destroying the units there and getting themselves another resource space, which I need to mark, they also knocked that headquarters out of the Philippines, and that doesn't have a yellow dot because MacArthur will return, but it has to show up. It's going to show up somewhere as a reinforcement next turn. That I don't believe can be delayed. Alright, so the Japanese have started on their action of capturing the Philippines. Now, one thing, I made a couple of errors that kind of canceled out on my last turn. I should have ferried some of the air units over into this space so that they could make the airstrikes. Since I didn't, they should have been halved, but both of those kind of canceled out. I could have moved them there and they wouldn't have been halved, and that's what I did. In this case, I moved them forward and they were not halved. The big ground units were able to capture things, but now things are going to get a little ugly because I still do want to take these islands out so that the Philippines completely surrender. And I've got a lot of other actions to do. I've got all these Dutch to take out. I've got whatever I'm doing against Singapore and up here in Burma. These are not going to be easy tasks to undertake with the amount of cards that I have. On the bright side, the Allies don't appear to be really holding anything that allows them to make a major offensive of any kind. And then, there's sort of side things. This is a offensive in China turn. I'd have kind of liked to play a 3-point card for that, but I don't know if I can. Alright, onward. Well, on the U.S. turn, I played the Arcadia Conference, which produces what I think is a joint headquarters that can command just about anything, I think. I'm not sure if it allows reinforcements anywhere, but most importantly, it allows the Dutch to have some sort of command. I did realize I screwed up a roll. Probably going to screw up a lot of them in this one. The last 2 turns, I made 2 attacks off operations cards. That's not allowed. You can only make one. You can only declare 1 battle axe. More attacks can happen, but that wouldn't have been the case here. I'm going to let it stand. Japanese need all the help they can get at this point. But yeah, normally when you use a card as an operations card, you can only intend to hit 1 hex, basically. Alright. So the Allies shifted a couple of Dutch units so that they can help defend Singapore. That didn't really help. The Japanese were still finally able to consolidate 2 infantry units and manage the attack there. They had no naval or air superiority there, but it doesn't really matter once you get the ground strength in place. I mean, it's a bonus, but still, it was a significant advantage. So they're pushing forward towards Singapore. I want to knock Singapore out again to get that headquarters away. However, that may be not the wisest of ideas because the Allies have no headquarters up here. This should not have been delayed, I think. Oh yeah, I don't know. Something doesn't get delayed. I'll look it up. if the Allies are supposed to have one, that's going to go somewhere up here in Burma. Okay, so the Japanese are playing their big card, the Operation KA, or KA, as an event card. This isn't going to give them the Allied tactical confusion advantage, because that's only against the US to begin with. But it gives them the logistics value of 4, which they want because they're going to hit Singapore, as well as doing a naval landing down here at Tarakan. They have to try to make up some of the ground they've lost. Why do they need Singapore? They needed to start moving on to Sumatra. I started looking at that and saying, that's just not going to be easy without getting Singapore out of the way. It's not a resource hex, but it's of some value. Okay, so the first thing is the Allies get to roll their EC. This should be automatic, actually. Okay, and it is. It succeeds no matter what. But I was going to say they have a plus because they've got an air unit here that's getting attacked. I'm committing air unit. Let's see, I got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll commit this guy 5. Air units committed, which means I don't get to move this guy. I kind of wanted to move him, but okay. All right. This means the Allies get to react, though, which is going to be a problem. Now, let me try to think what I want to react with. Well, I think Singapore is the more important to defend against. The operations value is a 3, so that's going to give me 4 reaction moves. I'm going to target from here, and I'm going to move my air and navy into place here. Well, the air unit only has to move here. The navy is going to be in the fight. I still have a couple more reactions. Can I get him up there? Probably not, because jungle is 2 and mixed is 2. That's why I couldn't just attack over land in Borneo. It's very difficult to move through this terrain. So I just do not see another reaction that this guy's going to be able to trigger. Maybe I'm missing something, but I think this is the extent of it. All right, let's do this in detail, because this is pretty much the end of the turn. I've got an air battle here, and the Dutch have 10 total strength points, plus the English, which puts them up to some 16 or so. Okay, and the Japanese have their 20-point air here, which I'll mark this way. This is probably not going to go too well. The Japanese got a good roll. There's a lot of luck in this game. Okay, I don't think there are any modifiers on this. So the Allies do half damage, and the Japanese do full damage. Half damage is going to be 8 hits. That's not enough to break this plane. It takes 10. However, full damage from the Japanese 20, 9, 18. Now I want to hit planes, or do I want to hit a Dutch boat? The Dutch boat looks weaker, so I'm going to hit the 2 planes for 18 points. Now that's still not sufficient to get overall air superiority here. Let me just do the battle, the ground battle here as well while I'm in there. The Brits have 11 factors. I'll mark like this. And the Japanese should have 27 ground factors. That's a lot. Okay. The terrain in Singapore is mixed, which is going to be a -2. And nobody's got any real advantages on here. They're both going to do half damage, rounded up. Okay, the allied half is going to be 6. That's not sufficient to damage anything. And 27 and a half would be 14 points. And that'll be this unit. And that's going to be a successful attack because they caused more step losses. So the Brits are going to have to retreat out of there. I'm going to have to look that up. Let's go take care of the amphibious invasion, and I'll come back with the after-battle withdrawals. So this amphibious invasion is allowable because there's no air power there. The fleet can't come out and do anything from what I can tell. However, there is going to be Japanese planes. I'm only sending one in. A 22 and a 2. Let's see what the air effect is there. Again, no modifier here. 1 and 4, a quarter to a half. Okay, they take 1, the Japanese do. That's not going to do anything. But a quarter is going to be 6 hits. It's 4 on the Asia. It's still there. Now, the Japanese have air superiority, though, so they're going to get a bonus on that. They're using amphibious transport, which means the Allies get a +3 bonus, but it's a 9 against a 1. So. Ooh, but they get a big roll, so they're going to do double. That's not enough to do any damage. That unit is so tiny. But let's see about this crappy 1 roll. That goes up to a 3, which is full damage. 9 points. That's sufficient to flip. Flipping's enough to kill. So we've got another successful attack there. I'm going to come back and show where things were treated. I believe everything's able to get out of there, but I'm not positive. I have to look up for the evacuation. I believe that's allowable, though. Well, not surprisingly, I was wrong. The U.S. naval unit was able to retreat back here. The air units were able to get out, although I'm not sure. I have to look up about this guy. I'm not sure he was able to get out. But the ground units in Singapore were destroyed. You can't do a naval evacuation like that in this. I'll look at air retreats as well. I can't tell. I'm gonna have to come back for that too. This is so many little rolls. Okay, so after repositioning after that battle, both sides. Oh, the U.S. played an operations card. They didn't actually attack with it. They just shifted forces into Burma. They're going to make that a little harder for the Japanese to take the southern part of Burma. I'm hoping I'm not screwing up massively. I'm always worried with these games that I'm making these huge errors. You know, that's something of the, especially at the strategic level in general. There's such a chance for that I could be screwing the whole game. In fact, of course, that initial turn, the bad die rolls may have done it. I don't know if my use of the Japanese has been terribly bad since then. Somebody can probably point out that it has. But there was definitely some desire for the Japanese to take another action. We have so much behind right now. Look at all these, resources we need. Right now we're at 7 resource hexes. That means only 3 cards. We're going to get that 4 card minimum. Ouch. I've got to get 7 more of these. Now, I really need to get the Dutch East Indies out of this, into Japanese control. And that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more hexes, 6 more hexes that I have to take for, I think, 5 resource spaces. But I really, really need that. And as secondary here in New Guinea and then up here in Rangoon, those would be of value as resource spaces. They're less vital right now than getting the Dutch out of the war, and it's going to be tough to get the Dutch out because there's at least one kind of larger unit here. It's probably going to take my entire next turn to push the Dutch out. So why not get started? Well, but why not put the card here? I can use it next turn. I don't think, I may be mistaken, that there's going to be significant reinforcements. There's certainly a big pile there. But I don't think there's going to be significant reinforcements that are going to change the balance of things. And right now the war in Europe is still at a good area where all we're going to actually see is these. Okay. What about the U.S.? Well, they had nothing to do, basically. I mean, they might as well store a card for when they can use it. And in both cases, I think they stored a reactor. Oh, no. The U.S. stored a China card, which they probably aren't going to need the way things are. All right, so for cleanup, well, the biggest thing that happens, maybe the only thing, is that the Philippines surrenders. And that reduces the U.S. political will by one. It's not a huge blow, but these are little things that have to be done. The other countries are going to be tougher. Dutch East Indies I have to do. But some of these others, ooh, Malaysia. Malaysia fell. Oh, there goes one. Yay. So yeah, the U.S. has a problem there. It may also not be set up the best because of the inter-service rivalries for the Japanese. But I've got to do what I can do, and yeah, I'm certainly learning as I'm going. Okay, what else? Well, supply lines, to me it looks like all of the supply lines are okay. There doesn't seem to be a lot of thought behind, a lot of work behind that. Basically, you're in supply if you're in range of a headquarters, and that headquarters, I think, the rules didn't feel clear on this, but maybe I missed something, have to trace back to the original supply zone. So, for example, I've got a Japanese headquarters here, it's got to be able to trace back to Japan. And likewise, the Allied ones have to be able to trace off the map. I think that cutting a headquarters out of supply is going to be tough. I think that cutting individual units out of supply isn't so tough. You can actually do kind of an island hopping situation and leave significant Japanese forces, or perhaps others, outside of the range of a headquarters. Hey, what's going on here? Are we? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah. Okay. I don't think that would matter because these don't have a backside. So they're already as reduced as they can be, I think. I don't think they just disappear if they were out of supply. If they did, they disappeared last turn, right? Because I only got this headquarters now. Okay, well, let's send this one up. I believe that I am done with the January through April turn. And we'll go to the May through August turn.